How are you? Hi, how are you? Crossword is going. That's right. Hey, Louis is here. What? This is the best thing. It works. Hey, Joe. How are you? David, the best thing you can do is to vote. Yes, right. It's easier to do a password than to read if the vote's moving, rolling them off. So I save them out before and make them on my book. I had it, it's all highlighted. Yeah, a lot of those stuff. Not this. Yeah.
Jill, I don't care what Mark says about that.
Great, thank you.
I'm on your
I don't care what. How's it look good, man? Get there.
Susan's driving down 95 today. Saturday. Shut up. She's going over to. He's so tired, right? Hey, Lars, how are you? Gentlemen, how are you?
You're on set.
Right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the New Charm Town Council meeting with Interstate Navigation, Wednesday, December 8th, 2021. First item on the agenda, and the agenda topic is to meet with the Interstate for discussion of areas of mutual concern. And the first item on that agenda topic is the ferry schedule.
Do we have a printout?
You want this, you want the ferry schedule?
Yeah.
All right. Would somebody get a printout of the ferry schedule?
The 2020. Yep, upcoming schedule.
All right.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike. Ferry schedule for time. Hospitality. So we'll come back to the ferry schedule, and item B is the hospitality center. Mary Ann, did you want to say something about the hospitality
Yeah,
center?
the hospitality center, it's my understanding, is owned by a different party, and we will work with that party in that regard and laws.
Thank you. Lars, I know you came here with questions about the hospitality center. Is that your follow-up with the town manager? Okay. Okay. Thank you both. Does anybody else have any questions about that? No. Item C, preferred parking for island residents on and off island. Councilors, any questions about that, or anybody want to talk about that?
Did you guys get Kay Lewis's letter, which is consistent with a lot of the stuff we've heard, Josh?
Yeah, we did, yes.
Can I just interrupt you? I just want you to turn your microphone on for this, so the public can.
Keith Stover. And I just thought that was a well thought out and describe the situation that we've all faced, which is, I know my wife and I aren't alone, where we're now going down and scouting the parking lot, and frustrated that it's, literally every day jammed with exactly the same contractor vehicles. So we, I just wonder whether there's a solution there, Josh. I don't mean to put.
Bill's actually.
Oh, great. Thanks, Bill.
I work, and I have that frustration.
Yeah,
So I get that,
yeah.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, there's about 105 parking spaces down there, not including the ones in front of the chamber, and obviously our employee parking on the other side. Of that, there's a handful of cars, people that come back and forth, they can't be Highlands and so forth, that come back and forth through that. One of the big problems that we have is most of the businesses in town have very limited no parking. We're ever trying to get cars out of the lot, whether they work at Ballard's or Old Operating or wherever in town, which is frustrating. So there's two ways to do that. The green stickers, you see them all the time, or the tow. The problem we have is, when we work with Peter, is Peter doesn't have a place to tow the cars, unfortunately. Or has limited, so we can tow, a handful of them. If there was a place to tow some of the cars, we would have a better success about getting some of them out of it. Now, no one wants to tow the cars. We want the cars to be there, they go back and forth for the day. But that's been probably the biggest frustration for us, not being able to realize, and I know all of this is part of the same thing, be able to tow it out from that end of it. One of the issues that also happens is a small period of time early in the year where the high speed gets in just after the traditional boat is leaving. So a bunch of space is free up from the other end of it. But when we did the count, it was about maybe 20 vehicles tops that were commuting back and forth from that end of it. And looking at that, there's a couple of things we talked about we might be able to do where, say, like, I'll use the Gary Tyler, things, we might have one car, maybe get that section over near the chamber to double them up. That might help up free the other spot. But unfortunately, at some point, just like Mansion Beach, there's more people traveling than there are cars from the end of it. So doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to work on some solutions. I will admit there were 4 or 5 cars. We had a tough time getting out of there because Peter just couldn't tow them at that point.
Right.
Just frustrating from that end of it. But
So it seems like that we have universal agreement that it's an obstacle, that it's a challenge. And I just wonder whether we can work together on that. For example, we have people who, Susan and I we can walk from Beacon Hill. It's not a, but we have an increasing number of people for whom a schlep even from Town Hall is significant. So if we can figure out, even if it's not during peak season, something where if you are either of a certain age or have challenges walking or something like that, if we could figure out, look, if it bugs us, but it's not significant for us because we can figure it out, but not everybody can. And I think that would be the group that I'd like to focus on, if we could figure something out.
I think we're in agreement from that end of it that certainly more elderly owners want to be able to do what we can. Once it's a constant battle, we have to.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean we can't continue to work on it and come up with some ideas. We worked with the chief this year on some of the parking, the traffic flow and so forth. I think we made some headway on that. So. And
I think we have to do our part to this is not all sort of one way. David and we sort of began a conversation about this. Like, we have some. That's not just an issue, with these vehicles here. It's an issue at the airport. It's it's not. This is not solely your responsibility, but we would like to work with you on that because I think.
And we also only have the lot is shared with also Cross Sound for the outside parking on the rim, like towards the water. So not all of that is totally interoperable also. So, but at the end of the day, going one way or the other, the idea is to we want the flow to come over. And I know one of the frustrating parts for people is that we do the passes. So we usually do like a 2-day pass in the heat of summer, and then it goes for 3 days. So, and that's maybe something we need to look at also, make sure cars aren't being left there. Make sure the time sequence matches with the time you get that it is.
Interesting.
Because I know that sometimes, I'm sure it's frustrating when you go over and you're getting a parking pass, you walk back to the car, someone doesn't have it on there.
Yeah.
More than likely, in the past, probably someone who's traveled the 2 weeks back and forth. That's where it's not the stick on here too. So, but I think even the current pass, I think that if you went down to all current passes, it's a little more palatable to say, okay, someone beat you to it as opposed to is someone just taking advantage of that.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely recognize that it's an issue. Put some more energy to it.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you.
Bill, do you, just a question on that. Do you think it's an issue of just a lot of people in there? Like, how many towable cars would you have in there right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it people abandoning cars down there from, so if we assisted you or assisted ourselves with finding a spot for Piedmont to tow cars, like say up at the dump or wherever else has been talked to, we've talked about this in the past because we know this is an issue throughout town. Is that a big issue or is it just the workforce coming and going every single day?
So I think it depends on the time of the year and when it is. This time of year, obviously, when we put down the school, it's not much of an issue. The abandoned vehicle is definitely an issue that we have. And that's something that I think, you're talking a handful of cars, so maybe 3 or 4 cars that we have at that point. And if they're back for a while, then the speakers couldn't take them. But I think that's something we can address and get taken care of from that end. Remember, the last thing we want to do is tow a car, because that car being towed is probably our customer. So this time of year, it would be someone who leaves the car because maybe they have summer home, or it might be they're going back in 2 weeks. So where in the summertime, what we're really chasing is the employees that are parking, and people are parking elsewhere because they don't have another place to park, you know, and they're parking and say going to balance or and so forth. Or at one point, we were trying to market, we said they park the car, go buy a ticket, and then go to balance and go to work because it was cheaper parking than getting a ticket on the front street. So in the summertime, it's more of that issue about people that don't belong that are parking there. This time in the shoulder season, it's more a matter of people leaving the car probably for longer than what they should have, or not putting the sticker up like they should be on the.
Thank you. Council? Martha? Hold on, I want to give the council if they just have a chance.
I didn't know if you saw.
Yeah, I got you.
Sorry.
No, I was only going to add that we even have problems up at the Baptist church these days. There are people, not these days in the summertime, there are cars that we know where the people work. We're pretty sure we know where they work. They should not be parking in our parking lot. They have distinctive license plates. Be warned.
I don't have any island-based questions. I'll wait to discuss what's happening 13 miles away. So let's continue on this item first, I guess.
Okay, hold on, Chris. Cindy?
Thank you, Cindy Bowden. I was just gonna make one comment to Bill that some of those workers' vehicles don't leave the lot every day. They are there sometimes for 2, 3, 4 days, even in the summertime. So those are taking up the space that ordinarily a commuter going off for the day could have. And I know it's a problem, and I don't have a solution, but I'm willing to.
Into that, a lot of times there'll be a car that it's a 2 days, they leave at 5 o'clock and then they're back for 2 days and it's over the weekend. So maybe something we can look at is maybe a little restructuring, particularly up by the chain and steep up there, that if we can double park and put those cars up in that area, it would, we'd get a little better, we'll get a few more spaces out from that area. But whether or not it's, it should be within the time span that we have set. It's a 2-day pass, should be within 2 days from that area. So hopefully we can get something worked out so we can get them.
Chris?
Yeah, it seems like every time there's a conversation about vehicles and parking, you have the same obstacle in order to go to cars. Well, start. Whether this meeting does anything about it. 25 cars at the transfer station temporarily. That place is secure, there's got cameras. Everyone has always come up with ideas why can't be done. Maybe talk to the state level, but start 25 cars at the transfer station next week. I mean, what would it take? Seriously, you got plenty of room. I know you might have an objection to whoever's leasing. Just say, look, this is what we need to do. Second, you know how many people I see down there struggling that are over 65, or maybe not even over 65, disabled, partially disabled, they won't go better. There is no way in bad weather that that's reasonable for people to have to, geez, can I park? I have to go home, do I have to cancel? Maybe work out a thing where some of these spots can be for people going off for the day, tied to your commuter card. I'm talking about the parking spots closer to the boat. Maybe have those marked in such a way that you can only put a car in there if you're going off for the day or if you have a commuter card. I mean, there's There's any number of solutions, that's just one. And make it easier for people. I see an awful lot of people struggle, whether they're taking carts on the boat, whether they're taking a sick pet on the boat, whether they're taking themselves on the boat. I mean, I had some bad days myself. I'm not even over 65 yet, but I'm close. But there's a lot of elderly people out here that I watch struggle, particularly in bad weather. And I don't think it's reasonable on either side, here or Point Judith, not to have some provisions. I mean, you know, all else fails, fall back to the Americans with Disabilities Act. You know, where is the handicap parking? I see pretty much the same vehicles at handicap parking all the time. It's not even go there to start missing things, but I mean, for crying out loud, if you're disabled, you shouldn't have to walk 200 yards to get on a boat. It just doesn't seem reasonable. So I would ask the council to just start with the parking, so the next time this comes up, go, okay, take the cars here. Instead of saying, oh, geez, got nowhere to put the cars.
Thank you, Chris. Does anybody else have any comments about parking? You want to, Mark, do you have on the other
Yeah,
side?
originally I asked this item to be put on the agenda thinking it was more so what's happening across the water. So let's talk about that. Is there any way we can get more secure parking for island residents so they don't get shut out of getting back to the island because there's no more parking spots on the other side? And that would probably be preferred parking. Is that something you have to work with the state? Is that out of your hands?
Mike McElroy, for those who don't know, we don't control any parking.
Right.
It's controlled by the state or by private entities. So we don't have any way to make that happen.
You must have some strong input to the state to possibly.
The reality is we don't. Yes, we don't.
Thank you, Keisha.
We have a good relationship with DEM.
Thank you.
But we have a very strong, long, convoluted lease with them on the properties that we that we get to see a lot, and then we've got a lot where we load the cars and the trucks and straight operation. That's it. All the other parking is controlled by the state or by the private operators. So I would think that the town, if they were interested in trying to work something out with the state, I want to contact DEM. Mary Kay at DEM is a very nice woman, very intelligent, and she would probably understand the issue if you wanted to make a distinction. But there would need to be a change in the operation of that law in the state owns.
You're right. Many of us did raise it with them. You remember, Mary Ann, I think.
Yes, let me
a bunch of
jump
us
in
were on the
here,
call.
just to let the council be aware, and it would be in my report coming up to you folks. I've reached out to the director of DEM, the acting director, a gentleman, Terry Gray, I think his name is, about a couple other things with the island. And he's coming out here. We haven't a firm date, and I'm coming up with a list of things to speak with them about, and this will be one of them. So I'll have the attention of the acting director at that point, and he's coming out here for a day.
Do we have any idea what's going on with do we have any idea what's going on with the lighthouse in property?
That I can't answer. I know there's been some stuff going on with the town of Narragansett. I haven't been following that fully.
I have been following that, if you would like me to tell you what I know about it. DEM, at the request of the town, put an RFP out for the redevelopment of the lighthouse inn.
This is DEM at the request of Narragansett.
Yes, the town of Narragansett
Thank you.
did not like the way the current owner was operating it or
No.
not operating it, as the case may be. It's basically just a parking lot, and then DEM is not open, as you know. And so DEM put out an RFP, and they received 4 responses 2 or 3 weeks ago. And those responses are being evaluated. My understanding is that sometime in mid-January, DEM is supposed to make a decision on the responses that they got. One is from the current owner, which redevelops the lighthouse into some smaller retail type spaces, ice cream shops and things like that, and the rest of it for parking. and a little cleaned up front area. It looks decent to me, but you can find it online. If you go on the DEM website, they're all listed. But the second one was from the town itself, and the town has an extremely ambitious proposal for a big hotel, and in fact, one of the things you guys might want to take a look at is the way I read the town's proposal. What they want to do is they want to redevelop it in phases, and one of the phases is to put at least one 400-car parking garage, and maybe even a second one. And it looks like that would take up not only the current land that the Lighthouse Inn operates on, but the land that the private lot directly across from us uses. So, but it's a detailed redevelopment proposal from the town. There's a third one from, I forget the name, it's one of the fish
Co-ops.
processors down there, and yes, and they are suggesting that a fish processing and wastewater processing facility be built on there. It says very little about parking, except they say they might be able to keep as much as 25% of the parking. And the last one was not a proposal at all, but just basically a letter that says, you know, we think you need to keep the fishing community in mind and whatever you do. So, but they're all posted on the website. You might want to take a look at it. They definitely have different approaches to parking. And for all of them, it appears to me anyway, that there would be a significant reduction in the amount of parking available in Galilee if any of the redevelopment proposals are accepted.
Even the one with the hotel, which sounds sort of like a remake of Governor Almonds.
Yes, it sounds a lot like, as you may recall, I was on that committee back in the day, the early 90s, I think.
Yes.
And, yeah, they were talking about a parking garage. So, but this is the initial phase that they're talking about, it's got a 400-car garage. So it's interesting the way they word it. What they say is a 400-car garage for the hotel guests, for the retail that they're proposing, and for long-term ferry parking. And there's no mention at all of short-term ferry parking, you know, summer day trips. So I don't know where they would go on that. They are open for comments now, so if you want to submit a comment to DEM on the proposals, they're accepting them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Martha. Does anybody else have any comments?
So we're going to work with you guys on this parking lot issue, particularly as Chris says, with people who have, challenges. That'd be great. Thank you.
On this side,
What's that?
on this side.
Yeah, on this
Yeah,
side.
just to
Sorry.
clarify. Yeah.
Sorry.
All right.
Here it is.
Anybody? Do you want to return to the schedule? We have it. Martha?
Yeah.
Turn the schedule. All right, schedule.
If anybody has any questions.
Council have any questions about the schedule, comments? I will note that we did receive a letter from John Spear, resident, about the topic. So have you seen that letter from John Spear? Have you guys?
Yeah.
Yes, it was September 28th. Okay, thank you. Council?
So is Thursday staying where it is now through this winter and spring?
Correct, the current, yeah.
Thank you.
Josh, what was the reason for eliminating that early island boat on Thursday?
Well, we added, Wednesday, we made a 3-trip day, and we basically just duplicated that schedule into Thursday as well. The ridership seems to be pretty good on it. And we looked at, various factors about how much time, we tried to give people leaving here as much time as we possibly put on the midnight. It's pretty similar to the Monday, but of course, it's pulled is a little bit later leaving here than it is on Monday.
And earlier arriving. I'm wondering, I always thought everyone knew Monday, Thursday, Saturday, those are your days to get anything accomplished on the mainland. What was the criteria for eliminating that Thursday?
Well, a lot of it had to do with looking at how many people actually rode the boat as far as the ridership goes. We found there was very little change in ridership between the new schedule and the Monday schedule. It's pretty minimal, but there is a little change. There are other factors as, of course, as crew hours as well. It's a very long, day for the crew to work, so that was a factor as well.
And Fridays, you actually get a reasonable amount of time on Friday too. He just leaves here later.
Yeah, the boat is overnighting on Friday, sorry, last week.
I guess I'll let others speak because I don't go off and on a whole lot.
I don't want to put Chris Blaine on the spot, but yeah, no, I have one more. I'm trying to remember the details, Chris, but I was talking to your mom about a challenge that she was having during COVID, where she had medical appointments. You were taking her off in a car, and with the leaving here in a car and having to be back to the lot an hour before with the car, same day back and forth, it was very challenging for her to get to her medical appointments, if I recall correctly. And that was, especially the case, if I recall correctly, during COVID, where people really wanted to be in their cars,
I personally, I would like to see that Thursday schedule come back, just go back to that Monday, Thursday, Saturday, because it's just like everybody knew that, you put your appointments out, it gives you a nice long stretch of time on mainland. That the 7:30 getting here at 8:30, it's just, I don't know if the council would get behind that or not, but I think it would be nice to have that Monday, Thursday, Saturday. I much prefer the new schedule, I don't know how everyone else feels, but this makes sense.
Yeah, I do too. Maybe I'm so used to it. I don't know.
I think that's, we don't like change more. But people did, I was very surprised because I've been here long enough and I remember all of the fights to get the back and forth boat at all, that then the early boat over and the last boat back was too long a day on the mainland. You can't win. You're not gonna, I was just astonished at the number of people who complained about that. And I don't hear a lot of complaints, and if I'm hearing them, then. But I appreciate the fact that Wednesday, it used to be Tuesday and Wednesday were both kind of dead days, weren't they? Like you couldn't get off and back on Wednesday. I'd rather have it like this. There's some more flexibility. Not that I go away.
Council all set? Kay Lewis?
Anyways, I say the Monday, Thursday division, and I know there is no way to please everybody. Because people want different things, but we miss the longer day on Thursday because often when we're going off for a dental appointment or some kind of medical appointment. And particularly in the winter season, you can't, on Monday, if your only long day is a Monday, you can't see weather coming far enough in advance to cancel your appointment if you need to. So we always try to make our appointments on Thursday so that if we saw that the boat was not likely to go, we could let the doctor or dentist know in advance so that they could schedule someone else and we wouldn't get charged for a visit we couldn't make. So we like, if it's possible, we like a long day on Thursday. Just this week, he had made one of his appointments for Thursday and then realized he couldn't get there with the late departure. So he had to go early and stay overnight in a hotel in order to keep us at home. So that's why if there can only be one extended day, we prefer it for Thursday because it gives us a chance to cancel if necessary.
But I do think and I only say this because I'm in the middle of doing some of this right now, which I'm not normally doing. I'm going off tomorrow for a medical appointment. Tomorrow's Thursday. I found South County to be extremely accommodating. You're from Block Island, we'll get you in the middle of the day. I can't speak to every doctor, but I don't want to go back and forth on who wants what with a handful of people in the room, and I think your schedule is set anyway.
I'm not sure that one or two people are gonna make any difference, but we have to go all the way to Providence sometimes to go to the VA or Howard. And that's not an easy trip. I mean, he's not young. And just being able to do it on Monday isn't always, you can't always get an appointment. I'm going to East Providence for an appointment. And they don't always have appointments on Mondays. So it's hard not to have the 2 days. I mean, a lot of doctors do have Mondays, but if they don't have Mondays, then you're kind of stuck. You have to stay away or you get absolutely nothing else done except for one that one appointment.
That's an interesting take, and I thank you for bringing that up to us. We don't talk about South County, like Martha said.
There's a Friday, I mean, nobody ever talks about the Friday boat, and there is a longer boat on Friday.
It isn't longer, is it? I mean, you're leaving later and you're getting back. It's not a longer day.
You have it in front of you.
Well, again, I've been so out of this loop for so long that I was comparing it only to not having, look, we have 1 day a week now. You can't get off island and back. Is that right?
Yes.
And if you.
Yeah, that's not until after the new year. Right now, we can't get off right after the first year.
Cindy Bowdy?
Could I make one comment in support of your comment about the VA hospital? My daughter happens to work up there, and I made 5 different trips this past week to Providence. The traffic and the road construction are horrendous. So that also puts a lot of angst on people in terms of not only getting to their appointment, now trying to get back to the ferry on time so that they don't miss the ferry. So there's a lot of factors again in here, but the traffic on 95 is horrific. Especially when you spend most of your time on Block Island, you used to just Block Island traffic.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. Keith, go ahead.
So,
Microphone.
hey, Josh, can I say, so this year's schedule through June is set, right? Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah.
So just a question about how you put it together. When do you make those decisions? Because what I'm thinking is, I'm assuming it might be helpful for you to hear from people in a, you know, about kind of what the challenges are, rather than sort of, and you know, some you can't accommodate, some you can't accommodate. Some you're going to have people on both sides. You know, what do I know? It's the first meeting I've had with you guys about the schedule, but it strikes me that whatever that timing is, if you're thinking about that in July, sitting down and having a conversation like this about what the challenges were last winter, and I'm not even talking about your summer schedule where, you know, the objectives are different, but where you're trying to get people who live here on and off the island when the service is genuinely in its kind of lifeline, phase of its year. Would you be willing to sit down when that process begins, just to figure out where the challenges are and see whether those can be accommodated and figured out?
Well, yeah, this is a prime example. A lot of times from these meetings we have with the council, we'll take all input that we get a lot of comments. A lot of it comes from this meeting in particular. A couple of years ago, we did a survey, and you know how many years ago was that?
Before it was 2019.
Yeah, so we did a survey with our, based upon our winter riders to see what input they had as far as schedule. We definitely use those comments, and there, just keep in mind, there's a lot of competing users of the ferry. There's of course on island, and then a good portion comes from the mainland too. So it's always in this freight and everything else. It's always a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
Meet all those needs.
Yeah.
This right here, we definitely get a lot of input from this meeting.
Yeah, and I'm not, please, I'm not trying, I just think, there's one of the frank facts is that we do have an aging population on the island, so that the actual back and forth needs may be different for a growing part of our population, where again, some people have a lot of flexibility, others don't. Some people have to go back and forth to get to medical appointments, or have to, so it just seems like it might be worthwhile, when you're in the process of developing what the winter schedule is going to be, to sort of just have a focus group. It doesn't have to be this formal. I mean, just, ask people what they think. That would be great.
Thank you, Keith. Kay Lewis?
I just want to make one more comment. Again, I know these jobs have it's just not possible to meet everybody's request. But I have to say, I have been very grateful at how courteous a lot of the people who work for the ferry are. They're so helpful in getting their shopping, helping with their shopping carts and so forth. 10 years ago, that was nice, but it didn't mean anything. Now I'm going on 77, it means a lot. I really, that helped me. So thank you.
Oh, wait.
Jeanette, go ahead.
So there's a couple of things that I'd like to respond to. First one being what Chris was saying regarding COVID. If I don't ever want to go back there, however, our schedule was very, very restricted. So I'm not surprised that people had a difficult time functioning during that time period.
Right.
So let's not, I'm hoping that I have to repeat that, but there were major restrictions on everyone then, which eventually led to a lot of shortcomings as far as the number of people we were allowed, the number of cars. The schedule itself was very minimal. Regarding how we make the decision or what our observations are about coming up with the winter schedule, back in the day, everybody would go, they'd go to Almax, they'd go to Newport Creamery, they'd stop at Woolworths to do whatever they had on their day off. That doesn't happen anymore. People have so many opportunities to get their groceries, Amazon, mail, or whatever. So that element is gone for most of the people. I would say not everybody, but noticeable enough for us to take notice of that. I realize that some of the days are short, and when we're getting back to the issue of people wanting to come out for work from the mainland, that Monday morning is full of people who are doing business on contractors, people going back to school, people going back to the island from a long weekend, etc. So if it weren't a Monday, what they would work for everybody can't do Wednesday, because lots of doctors don't have appointments. So it was just a consideration for us as well as you. I mean, what do we need to do? Would they out of the bag and say, this is the day we're gonna go? So, and I also wanted to comment on a couple of years ago, the issue was, oh, we only have one more day on Tuesday and Wednesday. I think this is a good schedule, and I'm hoping that, you know, it needs to be, it's possible it might need to be tweaked. It's an issue of, we don't like change, we're used to Monday, Thursday, Saturday. And so now a little bit of adjustment has come into place, and I think it's gonna take a little while for people to get used to it. And again, I understand that the time period on walk around might be really, I mean, I'm quite sure it might be abbreviated, but I'm surprised at how many people call the reservation office and don't even know what kind of road is anymore, so. It's the education on both sides, education for us, how people will react to it, and education for the residents here to take a peek at the schedule and make sure they know what it is.
Thank you, Janet. I think it's because we're just so used to saying, we need a reservation on the first boat, and we don't care when that is, we're getting off on that boat. You don't even check the schedule. It's like, why do I need to get off on the first boat? So I appreciate that.
Yes, so it is. It's not on Wednesdays, which this is, there's no way to do just 2 trips. We ended up having to do 3. This is a workout.
Thank you. Chris, Blaine?
There's one more thing I'd like to say. You know, I don't need crystal ball to see that if the state has an opportunity to block out the bill, hate to do that one, but parking is probably going to either be restricted, reduced, something will happen, and 9 times out of 10, it's not block out of it. It's to somebody else, maybe Prakash people, whoever it is. So I've brought this up before. I have to say, everybody in the state is always been helpful. If you're trying to get someone to a medical appointment, the idea of taking them on a boat and taking them to a car that's parked up there, you might as well forget. I've gone through this with my mother. And again, people have been very helpful. So what I would suggest is save 4 reservations or 3 reservations or 2 reservations a day on that boat for people that originate on Block Island with a commuter card. Those reservations, if not used, can always be used to stand by. I mean, I don't think I've been on a boat in the last year and a half that has had a line of standby cars waiting to try and go. It's not like those reservations would be used. I heard the discussion that it can't be done because you can't treat people on Block Island differently. I heard the same argument when they were talking about commuter cars. Oh, you can't differentiate people just because they live on Block Island. Well, won't be able to do. It's very difficult to get somebody out to the back of that boat and up off of where the cars are if they're not fully mobile and if they have any kind of health issue. So, I mean, that's what I'd like to see. I don't know if it's possible. Maybe 2, maybe it could be done by 65, maybe it could be done by some handicap placard in the vehicle. But I'm throwing it out there for the council to take the lead here and say, how about, what is it possible? Can we do? Can we do even 2? Can we try it? Even a trial period? Because speaking of someone who has to get someone to the hospital, has to get someone, you know, for test, it's difficult. And I'm not the only one in that boat, so I'm throwing it out there. I hope the council will.
Thank you, Chris. I was just writing that down. Any other comments, questions? David Lewis? And then Sandra.
I wanted to echo what Martha said earlier about how difficult it is to keep all the people happy on Block Island with regard to schedule all of the time. There are a lot of different constituencies here, and if you can get 50% happy at any point in time, you'll probably be doing pretty well. I also wanted to emphasize how important it was that Jeanette said the things that she said, because there are so many things that go into creating this rational schedule that we are unaware of. And she mentioned COVID, she mentioned a bunch of other factors. Bill mentioned in the beginning that he didn't say it quite this way, but I think he was alluding to the crewing employments and the fact the maritime industry works by different rule sets with regard to labor. At least they used to, and perhaps they still do. So, you know, crew management becomes even more complicated than it is on land if the maritime rules are not familiar with the still in play. The last thing I would want to say is that I think Martha will agree with me as well as would we blame if she were in the room. Because the one thing we have seen from Interstate in the last 20 years, perhaps 30, is incremental improvement. not too many years go by when you don't see some incremental improvement in the service generally to Block Island, and that means travel in both directions. Block Island as a community, not as necessarily the year-round population being the highest priority, but it's the continuity that provides a long-term transportation objective to the town, as opposed to trying to run it ourselves as we did generations ago, which didn't work. Lastly, I would just like to say, for my distant perch back in the early days of COVID, I thought it was just amazing and remarkably well done what Interstate did during those first 6 months of the COVID experience, when, you know, they pulled back and then they incrementally added service as the season progressed and as the community needs on both sides were evolving with the summer. So I think it's always important to keep that long-term perspective of incremental improvement with regard to Interstate's community relationship with the town. Because there aren't many years when we don't see, of course, a 5-year span where we don't see the long-term incremental improvements that as a community have kept us thriving.
Thank you, David. Sandra, did you have a comment?
Sandra Kelly, you know my love for our seniors. And I'm here speaking for some of them. They have contacted me and concerning the lighting, and I apologize, I'm a little late for this meeting, especially like between November, February, March, that last boat, you go to the parking lot and you're loading your car. Now, maybe the lighting is fine. I don't know if maybe it just has to be turned or something. Okay, but they did request a little more lighting in the parking lot.
In the parking lot at,
You know, when you're getting off the boat and you've got your groceries and stuff, and you're loading your car, especially, you know, like, oh, I'm sorry, here on Block Island, yes, you're on Block Island. So I've gotten a few calls asking, and I apologize if you spoke to this earlier, and I do want to say that I was listening at home and ran down, and if people don't get on the mic, we can't hear what the rest of the people are saying here. Okay?
oh,
And
yes.
this happened at the last meeting. I was watching a meeting, I forget, planning board or whatever. I'm not sure which meeting it was, but if the people here are not getting to the mic, you can't hear it at home, okay?
Yeah, thanks for that input. Appreciate that, Sandy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't speak on the mic, I didn't realize it. Is this being streamed? Is that okay?
Yes.
I'd just like to add that we did add some more lights down at the dock.
Would you step up? Where is it?
I just like that, we did add some additional lighting on the Block Island side over the past couple of years, and we've updated them to LED lights to brighten it up a little bit more. I'll try to be more vigilant on having the guys leaving them on when the boat gets in. I know it is, the lighting isn't the greatest down at the eastern end of the lot, down by Finn's over that way.
Thank you, Joe.
But we're trying to improve it.
Thank you, Josh. Are there any more comments? That was on preferred parking.
Andre, before we go on, I just want to bring one thing to everyone's attention. It was a brilliant idea by a young resident last year or earlier this year about the parking problem on the other side from Thea Manji. And her suggestion was to work with DEM and RIPTA to find some remote parking with a shuttle service to bring you down to the point. So we'll be discussing that with DEM when we do meet with them.
Thank you, Mark. Any more comments on the parking for island residents on and off?
We're still on, I'm sorry, we're still on reservation?
We're on C, we're going to reservation.
Okay.
Car reservation
I'm
availability.
sorry, we're still on schedule. We can't leave this without talking about addressing all the ferries that seem to come in at one time and throw a car and people tsunami on Block Island. Is there any way via some traffic studies, some other kinds of studies that would help you amend that schedule so it could be more benign?
Well, I could just speak for ourselves, with our scheduled trips out of the point. We don't really have any overlap. Basically, one big boat at a time comes in. Now, I think you might be referencing, the New London boat might come in at a certain time, as we're unloading as well. But unfortunately, I don't have any say, for those guys. We might have the Athena or the Islander coming in, but their ridership is relatively minimal compared to the traditional boats on the busy days.
I would like,
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
well, I just wanted to offer a comment because I'm in a stationary position downtown. And this summer in particular, I noticed there was a big backlog on Block Island, Block Island World traffic jam, pretty much every day. And then it was gone. It was not, you go and take a picture of it and you look at the picture and you like try to explain to somebody that's a traffic jam because it just looks ridiculous. It's not. The boat's going to come in. There are going to be a lot of people, and I think this summer it was siphoned in a way that was better than has been in the past. And I think that had to do with what the police was doing downtown and moving the people and moving the cars. And yeah, the boat's going to come in. There are going to be people. It's that simple. And I say this every year, if you don't want to get caught in boat traffic, don't come downtown when the boat's coming in. Because it doesn't last, it really doesn't last very long. Appreciates worse.
Thank you, Martha.
We'll start.
Anything else on the schedule? Pete,
Pete Tweedy,
could you step up to the microphone for the public? Thank you.
the 577 too.
My.
Yeah.
It would seem to me that it would be a big help to the town if Interstate could provide statistics or numbers specific to every trip back and forth, how many cars and how many people are coming or came or whatever, so that the police department, certainly the Chamber of Commerce, whoever's involved, could be prepared for what's coming. And if it can't be done on a daily or a trip basis, at least on a monthly or quarterly basis, so we can begin to generate statistics of this boat on this day in this weather is generally busy or not busy or whatever. I think that would be very helpful to the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, Peter, with that said, Chief, would that be beneficial to you to know in advance if there's an overflow or if it's maxed out on the boat?
Absolutely. I think we could be prepared more. I mean, I don't think as Interstate, it would be an exact situation, but if we could look back and see that, on August, Wednesdays are heavier than on Monday, we can prepare and staff accordingly when we're looking at certain boats of the day. So absolutely, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I know selfishly as a taxi driver, it'd be really helpful to know in advance so we could have everyone there prepared to shell them away.
And I know we've discussed this, I've talked about it during the summer to see what the numbers look like. And I know that, through the fees that are collected, annually we get the numbers, but we're talking about really being specific to the days, the hours, the trips, that we can break this down and look at that data over a period of time. I think we could be a lot more efficient and prepared. And it's not only from the police standpoint, it's from fire and rescue also, and just being prepared of who's on the island.
Thanks, Chief.
So
Can we get a follow-up from interstate whether that would be a viable option if they can start, because the chief and I have talked about this on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
Statistics and preparing as the numbers are coming in.
Are you asking them a question?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
because
Bill.
that has been brought up,
Consulting with the
obviously, Pete
lawyer.
brought up, the chief has mentioned to me on numerous occasions. So I guess we're asking interstate if that's a possibility.
We do file ridership numbers with the PUC, and those numbers are there. And I'd assume we're really only talking about the high season because, you know, the rest of the time is not really a problem. You don't get any traffic jams this time of year. But the reality is that I think it's weather dependent. If you get a nice day, you're going to get more traffic than you're not. So that's, you can look at the numbers. I mean, I track the numbers in my office because I have to file them with the annual report to the PUC. So I see what the numbers are, you know, aggregated on a monthly basis. We don't track them at all by trips or hours or anything. It's not, there's no way for us to aggregate those numbers. But, you know, we do know how many people are on a boat at a particular period of time, but that requires us to go into the logbooks for the boats and that sort of thing. So I don't think it would be very, very difficult to do something like that. And with all deference to the chief, I understand what he's saying, but I don't see it would be a major undertaking on our part.
Why is that a major undertaking? Sorry, Mike, I'm just curious.
Yeah. Because you got so many boats, so many trips, and it's just
So you
not-
have a wand that counts the number of tickets that get scanned in.
We do.
Right. So someone could call Matt Moynihan and say 800 coming over.
I guess that could be done.
Yeah.
But if it's a beautiful day, you know, and if it's
I
a
mean, we
beautiful
know
day in
that's the
July-
weather, but this is a basic public safety issue. I mean, one of the successes we've had, I don't know whether you were here a lot this summer, but I think everybody was impressed, Martha alluded to it, with the work that the chief and the officers and the community service officers did, sort of managing it's chaotic when boats come in, as Martha said. I mean, boats come in, it's crowded, but if we had numbers, it could help Matt. I'm sorry, you're shaking your head?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'm thinking what's-
Okay, but this is a really basic public safety request, I think, that is not as complicated as you're asserting. And
Yeah.
I think it's a basic sort of cooperative public safety thing. And I think, if this is a problem, then it's helpful to learn that.
Yeah, I think it is a problem from our standpoint. And, whether there's 825 people coming over or 625 people coming over on the 11 o'clock boat on a particular day, I'm not sure how much difference that really makes and what you would be doing differently if there were only 625.
Okay, Mike, if I may.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe getting an answer today isn't gonna happen. But like Dave said, some of us have been here a really long time and remember when 3 boats a day weren't gonna happen. And we've gradually seen things that can't be done, be able to be done, and then after they've been done, aren't so difficult. And one of the difficulties we have over here is that the weather's not the same here and on the mainland. You listen to the mainland, they're talking about it's raining, it's beautiful over here. And, you know, you can't look at, I think you're not going to convince us that it's not easy to get, you're not going to convince some of us that it wouldn't be easy to get numbers. And if you give them to the police chief, they're not going to go anywhere.
Well,
So
I mean, we can look into it and we can
that would be
see
great.
how we could do it. I mean, I don't know, you could maybe have the first mate on each run radio to somebody on this side, maybe with the police department, and give them a number that there's so many coming over. I guess something like that could happen, but let us look into it. You know, we have worked cooperatively together over the years. One thing I gotta say about the police and the change, and one of the things that we lobbied for a long time was the police directing traffic on this side and using the landing fee dollars, hopefully, to make that happen, which is what they were intended for. And you've started doing that, and we really appreciate that. We think it's been a big improvement. On the Narragansett side, they've been doing that for a long time with the landing fee monies. And we're very appreciative of the fact that you've done it on this side. And you asked us a couple of years ago to get another 3-boat day. And it was a challenge and it did cost money, but we did it, and we did it without raising rates. So, let us look into it. We'll see what we can do.
Terrific, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any other comments on that topic? Schedule? Is the car reservation availability for residents? I think we've had that. Anybody else want to comment on that? That's just a topic. I know it came up already.
Yeah, I think I asked for this specific item to be on it. A lot of people talked about getting people for medical reasons off the island. They might find out about it that day or the day before or something, and it's impossible to get that reservation. It happened to me when I had to get a pet off the island, and the only way to get her off was via car, yet there were no car reservations. Is there any way to keep aside some resident car reservations for situations like this? Now, some people said, well, you idiot, just tell me you're on the town council. Well, I don't do none, I won't do that. So but is there any other way that anyone at any time, if there's a semi-emergency, can get on?
So I'm hoping that I can address your issues. Thought about keeping a car set aside. It's not as easy, and again, as with keeping the numbers, it's not as easy on the outside looking in for us to do that. Gladly would make a consideration for that, but it's something that's going to have to be discussed and studied and looked into, because what I have to say next is not going to be very well received, but I think it's something that everybody needs to hear. We have a lot of people who don't show. We have a lot of people who double book, and it's really noticeable for us. And you probably say, well, how come I can't get on? The boat's empty, because people are not conscientious enough to make the reservation. If something happens, I can't go that day, let me call to cancel it, or let me call to change it. That doesn't happen enough for everybody to take notice. So I don't know, that could be a reason why it's difficult to get reservations. There are other things for you to consider, such as what boat we're using. A lot of times the Block Island used to go up for maintenance, and when the Anna or the Carol Jean are on, it's a significant difference. I'm not saying that boats need to be maintained, but that's the reality of it. When we're using a different ferry, the capacity is significantly lower. So that's why I just want to put that out there, because it's it's frustrating for us. We happen to see the same names not showing. And we happen to see the same names calling and being frustrated because they can't get on, which we empathize with. You know, our goal is to have the boat as full as it possibly can in each direction. Some days are better than others.
I've had other people tell me, well, just call Jeanette or just talk to the captain or something like that. I don't want to do that. Can I, if that happens to me or somebody else, can we feel comfortable when we ask for that reservation to give the reason why in hopes that it gets some weight?
Go ahead, Ben.
I can talk loud. I follow just so, and I think everyone in this room knows that that's dealt with me. And it used to be with Cindy, okay? If there isn't a spot left for the rescue, which a lot of people think there is, it's always been, there's always a space for the rescue or for the police department. That is not the case. Like any business, you try to max out the boat both ways, okay? It's financially proof and so forth. However, whether it's the medical center, I think the chief will attest, or the police department, or some of the people, so if there's a medical emergency, everything has been humanly possibly done to accommodate that is done. And some of our mates work wonders with that. And sometimes that emergency is, whether it be through the medical center or through the police department, and then sometimes it's one of our citizens that, have, definitely feeling something about it, and each one is done on a case-by-case basis. We also have to make sure that there aren't those that try to abuse that. But I can tell you, I'm with Cindy not in the picture, unfortunately, I'm the point of contact for the medical center, the police department. And I think that we do a pretty good job on that, from that end of it. And we'll try to do that too, from that end of it. So there's kind of a system that works within that.
So anyone should feel comfortable giving a legitimate reason if it's something.
Happens all the time. They'll come down, there'll be a legitimate reason, some type of emergency, Debbie Howe had the same situation you did now back a couple of months ago. And it's looked at and considered from that end of it. So-
And I think you do a better than pretty good job with that, Bill. I really do.
As Joshua said, if it comes to a problem like that, and Bill also confirmed that, if there's a problem, of course, we're going to step up and help. And there's a lot of times I get phone calls, and you can usually tell when someone's sincere and needs to go just for the heck of it. So we are pretty empathetic to that reality that people have emergencies and they need to get off. Keeping a car space or two aside, I don't know. I'm gonna look into that for you.
Yeah, I agree with you, Keith. I guess I'm just reluctant to ask for a favor.
I think reserving spaces is a more significant disruption than we might think. I really do. No, I mean, having somehow spaces held, I get that. That's.
Just because even if we were to do that, there's no guarantee
Right.
that it's gonna be standbys ready.
Right, right, exactly, yeah.
Whereas 2 days ago, we could have filled those spots. if we had done that.
Yeah, all right.
So, I mean,
Now, I will draw a bright line between that and what we're asking in terms of having a mate text 782 to Matt Mooney.
At first, I thought that.
That's no.
Reservation available, you got this, you got that?
Thank you. Revenue opportunities and challenges. I'm not sure who, someone put that on the agenda. I don't know what that's about. Does any?
Well, I just wanted to say, I guess maybe I didn't really, the revenue opportunities, I don't really know what I want to say, but on the challenges, I mean, you guys know, you're here, Josh, you're here, Bill, you're here, everybody's here, Jeanette, we have had, this summer was significantly better, but we have had some, a lot of conversation and thought about numbers of people, what are the pressures on the resources, all that kind of stuff. And I really just wanted to raise, at some point, we'd like to just sort of sit down and talk about, because as we figure out our planning approach, you guys are an essential part of that. I just, I don't have anything in particular at a, front of mind, but, conversations like this, meetings even, just sort of having coffee, I think would be very helpful, as we go forward. So thank you.
Are we looking at a, I can't believe this. It doesn't matter what microphone I have.
Still works without it, don't worry.
it every time depending on where you're
It's actually at your foot, don't worry about it.
That's what I'm supposed to have. That's the old one. I was gonna ask about the, do we have, I've been out of commission for a little bit. Do we have, or should we be expecting a rate increase because of fuel? Is that what is the tariff right now? I don't remember, honestly.
Where is fuel?
I don't have all the numbers right here. It's what's being charged, but for at least the last 6 or 8 months, there's been a $1 per ticket reduction as a result of an over collection in the fuel account. And we discussed that with the PUC, and they felt the best way to handle that would be a $1 credit on the ticket until the excess collected gets used up. And sometime, I believe, in the early spring, although fuel prices have been going up, so that might be even sooner, but that $1 ticket price will go away, ticket reduction will go away, and we'll go back to the former rates. So that's what's going on. Because every time you think you know which way fuel is going to go, you make a mistake. And so we thought fuel was going to go up, and it didn't, so we collected too much. And now we thought that refund was going to last a lot longer than it appears it is, because the fuel did go back up. Now it looks like it's maybe going to go down for a while, so you never know. But we reconcile that with the Division of Public Utilities every month.
Okay, good. Good to know.
Michael, while you're there, I think the revenue item is on here because we've attempted to probably have to end up going to PUC to ask if there could be a higher rate per vehicle to bring your car over for non-residents. And then less cars would be beneficial to us, so the perfect win-win. And apparently the PUC didn't really embrace that idea. Now things evolve. If you were to go back and ask for a higher rate to bring your car over here, you think that would fly now?
Well, I can tell you that the makeup of the PUC has changed just recently. And so while I knew the PUC commissioners and their thoughts on rate making very, very well, recently I don't know them as well. So I can't really give you an answer on that. I can say that in general, rate making is supposed to be non-discriminatory. We did get the commuter rate through for passengers a number of years ago. But with regard to vehicles, it can always be proposed. It would have to be approved by the commission, and I don't know. The short answer is I don't know.
So, because that's what, I mean, other islands do that and they charge an obscene fee. But those people seem to pay it and not even blink, just put their credit card down. So I don't know if anything would help result in
Yeah, it
something
can always be
positive for us.
proposed in the next rate case.
Yeah.
And we'll see what the commission feels at that time. We don't have one scheduled at this point.
That was my question.
When we watch our revenues and expenses on a monthly basis, and when it started, because remember, it's a 9-month process. So we're always looking down in our crystal ball to see, are we getting to the point where we're going to need to collect some more revenue? And luckily, we have not been there. And in fact, we've been doing a refund of $1 a ticket for the last few months. So we're in a pretty healthy financial situation right now. I'm not seeing in the short term anyway, a rate increase in our future.
Good. I mentioned that because it's beneficial to you and it's beneficial us having less vehicles here. Potentially.
Doesn't help the parking. Mike, where does the all the charter money go?
Charter money goes straight into revenues to keep the rates low. Interstate has one great big pot of revenues, and there's no part of that revenue that is separated out. So when they charter a boat, it goes to the benefit of keeping rates low. When they sell a drink at the bar, it goes to the benefit of keeping rates low. When somebody pays extra money to ride the high-speed ferry, it goes into the revenue pot.
Okay, I get all that. I get it. Was the huge number of charters you've had.
It all goes into the revenue pot and helps to keep rates down. None of it gets separated out.
None of it gets pulled out for capital expense or anything like that, because
No.
it seems like, okay.
The capital fund that we do have was set up as a result of over earnings in recent years and approved by the PUC. And it's allowed us to do some wonderful things with regard to rehabbing the vessels and the engines and the interiors. But all of that has built up through the general rates. We don't, a lot of people have said, why don't you operate the high-speed ferry as a separate business? The Linda family they're committed to the island, as I'm sure you know. And a lot of suggestions have been made. Why don't you guys start running a parking business? Why don't you put a restaurant down there? I've heard some of the craziest things. And Sue says to me every time, we're in the ferry business, Mike. So.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mike.
Bill?
Josh and I are gonna stay, but in order to help keep the rates down, we're gonna send money back on the boat. That's okay. Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Well, are there any other questions or comments among this? Because we're at the end of the topic. Are there any other comments or questions? Because that was the last topic. You guys do need to hop that boat. Okay. Do you guys have any more questions or comments? Good? You're good, Mark? Public's good? All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Mark. All those in favor, Martha?
Aye.
Keith? Mark?
Aye.
And I'm in favor.
Thank you all.
Thank you.